Basement Horror Stories. There's a place beneath our feet where the light barely reaches and shadows reign supreme. Dark, damp, and filled with secrets, basements have always harbored the unexplainable. Tonight, we're descending into the murky depths where true horror stories are born. These are the Basement Horror Stories, tales so chilling they'll make you think twice about what could be lurking just a few feet below. Our first story takes us to a small, nondescript town in Wisconsin, the kind of town where everyone knows each other, until one couple moved into a 100-year-old house with a basement they would never forget. James and Sarah had always loved the charm of older homes, but their excitement turned to dread when strange noises started coming from the basement late at night. The sounds were soft at first, barely there, a faint cry like that of a child. Night after night, Sarah heard it growing louder and louder. Convinced it was just her imagination, she tried to ignore it. But one evening, while James was away, the cries grew so loud that she couldn't ignore them anymore. Gathering every ounce of courage, Sarah descended into the basement. She could hear the crying clearly now, coming from a dark corner. She froze, watching, waiting, until a tiny, pale face emerged from the shadows. She ran screaming, only to find out later that a child had been buried beneath their home decades ago after disappearing mysteriously. They sold the house within a month. But was that child's spirit ever truly set free? Our next story is about a young man named Ethan, who recently moved into an old farmhouse on the outskirts of Virginia. It was quiet, maybe too quiet, but he didn't think much of it until one night he heard something strange. It began with footsteps, light and soft at first, but unmistakable, coming from the basement below. Convinced it was a prank, Ethan laughed it off. But the footsteps continued, each night closer, louder, until he finally decided to investigate. Armed with nothing but a flashlight, he entered the basement. But as he reached the bottom step, the footsteps stopped and the air grew frigid. Just as he turned to leave, he felt a hand, cold and clammy, wrap around his ankle. Ethan froze, his breath shallow. He turned his flashlight downward, but no one was there. Panicking, he stumbled up the stairs. Ever since that night, Ethan hears the footsteps, every night, just as he's about to sleep. But he knows he'll never go back down there again. What would you do if someone, or something, was waiting for you in your own basement? Our third story comes from a family in rural Pennsylvania who discovered a room in their basement. That wasn't in the house's original plans. Tom and Maria were renovating their old home when they noticed a strange, sealed-off door in the basement. Curiosity got the best of them, and they decided to break down the wall and see what lay beyond. To their horror, they found a small, windowless room with strange symbols carved into the walls and remnants of what looked like old candles arranged in a circle. And on the floor, there was an inscription they couldn't read, smeared in something dark. After that day, the basement changed. Lights flickered, doors slammed, and an overpowering smell of rot filled the air. Maria began having violent nightmares, and their youngest son claimed he saw a dark figure watching him from the basement stairs. Experts believe the room may have been used for dark rituals, perhaps a place where spirits were called, spirits that never left. This next story involves a mirror found in a basement, owned by an elderly woman named Ruth. This mirror was hidden away for years until her grandchildren discovered it while helping her clean. One of the children, Emma, insisted on bringing it upstairs. But soon after, things took a sinister turn. Every time Emma looked in the mirror, she saw herself, but something was wrong. Her reflection didn't match her movements. Instead, it smiled when she wasn't smiling or stared even after she'd looked away. One night, Ruth heard a crash from the basement. She found the mirror shattered into pieces and a single handprint smudged onto the largest shard. After that, the basement was never the same. Every time someone went down, they could feel something watching. To this day, no one knows who or what was on the other side. Basements. We often think of them as just storage, a place to put away forgotten items and dusty memories. But perhaps there's more to them than we're willing to believe. A gateway, a dark sanctuary, or simply a place where secrets lie buried, waiting to be found. The next time you hear a noise from below or catch a shadow lurking where it shouldn't be, remember, maybe, just maybe, it's more than just your imagination. Sleep tight and watch your steps. Good night.